Warum ich heute live bin, ist, weil ich mich ein bisschen selbst überwinden muss. Warum geht's? Ich studiere auf der Universität in Wien und ich habe letztes Semester eine Veranstaltung besucht und die hieß The Sanskrit Epics from Ancient India to Pop Culture. Das ist meine Abschlussarbeit. Ich habe mich mit der Geschichte von Sita ein bisschen beschäftigt. Also wirklich nur ein bisschen, weil da könnte man tauchen, was ich da gerade gesehen habe. Und daraus mache ich meine erste englische Folge meines Podcasts. Das heißt, ab jetzt werde ich dann Englisch sprechen. Diesen Teil wirst du dann auch auf meinem Podcast hören können. Und das ist jetzt die Premiere. Das heißt, herzlich willkommen. Ich habe mir nur gedacht, wenn ich live bin, dann habe ich vielleicht, dann überwinde ich mich mehr, weil ich bin schon ziemlich aufgeregt. Gut, dann lass uns beginnen. Herzlich willkommen beim Krisenfest Podcast, der Podcast, der deine innere Heldin weckt. Das ist zumindest mein Ziel mit dem Podcast, Frauen zu motivieren, viel, viel mehr sich selbst zu lieben, viel mehr ihre eigene Geschichte anders zu denken und mutiger zu sein und ihre Wünsche und Träume zu leben. Genau. Now I will continue in English. So welcome to the podcast Krisenfest, which is my work to motivate women to live their inner power and to find their inner strength. And I'm here today to assign for a lecture which I did in 2022 and 2023. So let's dive in. The subject is Sita sings the blues. So let me tell you a story. A long time ago, there was a princess named Sita and a prince called Rama. Do you like stories? I do. This podcast episode is something special. I don't know if I told you that I'm not only a yoga teacher, but I'm also studying languages and cultures of South Asia at the University of Vienna. It's quite a gift to be able to dive deep into the knowledge of yoga and Indian history and culture. Last semester, I attended a wonderful lecture with Wendy Phillips Rodriguez, and the title was The Sanskrit Epics from Ancient India to Pop Culture. It is amazing and really interesting how the stories of the epics are still quite modern. The characters are still alive and in everyday's life, actually in India, and have evolved and make their way into our time zone and culture. Studying or practicing yoga, you can't help but learn about them. And then you find that there is lots and lots more. The main character of the Ramayana are Rama, the prince, Sita, the princess, Hanuman, and Ravana, actually. He is the bad guy. Have you heard about Hanuman? He's the big monkey god. Lots of stories about him too, and he's often presented with his chest open, and inside you can see Rama and Sita. Hanuman is believed to be the perfect devotee. Rama and Sita are said to be the perfect couple, which, seen with modern eyes, is hard to believe, but this is another story. And at the end of the show notes, you find a link where you find a description of Sita's life, and I found it quite interesting to see another perspective than the one we tend to go in without knowing anything about the culture. Within this lecture, we learned about how the epics evolved and were told in different contexts. For the Ramayana, we had, upon others, the movie Sita Sings the Blues. This is an animated movie made by the American cartoonist, animator, and free culture activist Nina Paley. She got to know the Ramayana when she lived in India with her husband, who divorced her in 2002. She coped with her loss and grief, creating the movie Sita Sings the Blues, which premiered in 2008 at the Berlin International Film Festival on February 11, and Nina garnered more than 35 international awards for this movie. So my deepest respect, and it's really worth, if you haven't seen the movie, go watch it. But what is the story of the Ramayana? The Ramayana is one of the two big epics in India. There is the Ramayana and then the Mahabharata. Maybe you have heard of them. If not, it's not such a problem. I will tell you the story. It's called an Adi Kavya, which means a very artistic poem. Adi means first, so it can be translated as to be the first, so the best and the utmost of all poems. The Ramayana tells the story of Prince Rama and his adventure. The biggest of all, I believe, is the rescue of Sita, who got kidnapped. But I will tell you a structure of the story. The Ramayana is written in 7 books, and I had it somewhere. I think it's 24,000 or 42,000 verses. So the first book is Balakanda, which is the book of the childhood of Rama. When he was born, and actually when he was really young, he already proved himself to be a hero. Then Ayodhya Kanda, the second book, is about what happened in Ayodhya, in his father's kingdom. Aranyaka Kanda, he was banished from his kingdom when he was up to be the king, and he was banished for 13 years. And Sita went with him as his wife, and this was also where Sita was kidnapped. Then the Kishkinda Kanda, it tells a story of how Rama gets to know the apes, and he helps their king to get back his kingdom, and in return the monkeys help Rama to gain Sita back. And Kishkinda is the prince of the apes, and this is where he's get to know Hanuman. And the next book, the 5th one, is Sundarakanda, which means the book of beauty, and it tells the stories of Hanuman and how he got to be so strong and his adventure. And then is Yuddha Kanda, which is the book who describes the battle, and which is the battle which is fought for the rescue of Sita. And finally, Uttarakanda, which is the last book. And as I mentioned before, the Ramayana is one of the 2 big epics, and Rama and Sita are the main characters. And after they got married and then lived in Ayodhya, where Rama did not become king, he had to live in the forest, and that's why Sita did her first showing of her being really devoted to him as her husband. And in the forest, she got kidnapped by Ravana. He is demon king and the king of Lanka, And one can say that the Ramayana is the story of the rescue, although, as you have seen, it's much, much more. And there are lots of stories woven into it. So the characters are also described. So it's very interesting to dive into it a bit deeper. And also in the show notes, I put a link to a YouTube video where you can watch a short version of the Ramayana, which is done by Indian and Japanese artists. The funny thing about the Ramayana is lots of people I talk with, like lots of yogis, know Hanuman and know Rama and Sita, but they know little about what happens after she got rescued, because there is a question of her faithfulness. Sita is believed to be have been 12 months at the house of Ravana. So after being rescued, Rama is doubting somehow her faithfulness, and he cannot trust her in a way. And Sita proves her purity to him while going through a fire ordeal. So she's going through the fire and is not hurt by it. And this is the proof that she's pure. And afterwards, this is, I think, in the last book, the people of Ayodhya, after they got king and queen, didn't believe her, and they were chatting and there were rumors. So Rama decided to send her away. He asked his brother Lakshmana to guide her into the forest and leave her there, which is quite mean, I believe. This is where she is found by Valmiki. If you are familiar with Indian epics, you maybe have heard the name before, but let's put it there. He's a wise man and he is living in an ashram, and he's taking her because she's also pregnant, and she has her 2 sons and giving birth in the forest. So there's lots and lots of stories to it, but one day Rama comes into this ashram and he finds his 2 sons and Sita, and he wants to take her back, but asking her to do, like to prove again her purity and her pureness. And Sita chooses not to do, and she's asking Mother Earth to take her back into her womb. And so this is how Sita is leaving the earth. I don't know how old she might be. It's said that she's 31 when she's going to the forest. So yeah, maybe my age, I don't know. And what I found very difficult is to have a clear opinion on these books, because the more you dive into the history and the story, the more it's getting clearer somehow and more understandable. Because you have to know that the Ramayana is believed to be written and compiled from the 4th century BC to the 2nd century past Christ. So this is a very long time, and it's a very old story. It is also sad because it's all about Dharma, and Dharma is, how you can say, the law of righteousness. This is one translation. And it is said to be told at the end of the 2nd yuga. What's a yuga? A yuga is a kind of age of humankind, and each yuga is progressively shorter than the preceding one. So we are living in the fourth yuga, which is the last one, and it's 12,000 divine years long. That will be 4,320,000 years. So that's a pretty long time. And yeah, and each yuga is said to be left more dharma. So the first yuga had all the four legs of a bull. There is said to be the bull of dharma, and the second one has 3 legs left, and the third one has 2 legs left, and the fourth yuga like only 1 leg left. So it's hard to stand with 1 leg. And this first one was is believed to be the best yugas because everybody was happy and life was easy. And in every yuga, as I said, humanity loses stability. And Rama is also understood to have been the 7th incarnation of Lord Vishnu, who is said to descend and put back things in order in the world. So slowly I'm coming to the movie, Sita Sings the Blues. And this movie points out the view of Sita and is seen through the eyes of Nina Pele, who is comparing her story to Sita, to the one of Sita. When I watched the movie and reflected on it, I was wondering how I might have reacted if I would have been on Sita's side. It's not so easy when you think about it. She was faithful to Rama, and Rama doubted her. But reading a bit through the texts, you can also see that Rama also was not very happy to have to send his wife away. And she proved it, but people were gossiping. And since Rama had to be the good king, first and foremost, he sent her away. So just imagine, just imagine this happening to you. This is quite awful, an awful thing happening to us, but I do know lots of women raising their child on her own, so it can also be seen as a very modern form of being a woman. And I was wondering, and so I was asking other women to help me and to answer some questions. And I sent out a request. I was a bit too enthusiastic about it. I thought lots of women will answer my questions, but I had 5 women answering my question, which was my goal, to have 5 women. So I reached it, but I thought it might be much more interesting for women to watch also this movie and reflecting on it. So this is why I speak about this old story in my podcast, because I believe first Sita to be a heroine for standing for the things she believed in. So she believed in Rama, she believed in her marriage with him, she believed in herself, and she did not give in. So she was a very strong person. And my question was like, how do nowadays women react? Because I believe every woman out there is kind of a heroine, because we are struggling with all these things, but we're moving on, we're going step by step. And also Nina Paley is a heroine for me because she coped with her story. She was not only working it out, but also creating something wonderful, inspiring, and quite impressive in regards of the many words and the public attention she got. So also Sita endured so much, but in the end she stopped it. And for me, it felt like she outgrew her ability to suffer and freed herself in the best way she could. I mentioned it already. Sita Sings the Blues is a movie where Nina Paley tells her own story alongside the story of Sita. And this is quite a thing because normally when you tell the Ramayana, it's about Rama. It's about Rama, it's about Hanuman, it's about this war, and Sita is rescued. It's a bit like Helena. She's rescued, but she's not the main character in the story. And in Sita Sings the Blues, she is. And of the 5 women, I got answers back, 3 of which have a yogic background, which I know are trained yoga teachers. And 2, I think, had a bit to do with yoga, like one of them, and the second one, I don't know, actually. I should have asked a bit better. And I was asking them, like, how the movie touched them and about how they could find, and if they could find, some parallels to their own lives. The question were, did you know something about the Ramayana before watching the movie? What do you think about Sita, and can you relate to the questions about her behavior in the movie? And with this question, I tried to point to a scene within the movie where there question about her behavior, like why, for example, she's found by Hanuman, and he is like, okay, come on, I rescue you, come with me. And she says, no, I will stay here because I'm not running away. I will be rescued by Rama. Please ask him to save me. And for this, you can ask a question, why didn't she went with Hanuman, so everybody could be happy and war would not have taken place? But she stood there and she said, no, I'm not like a runaway. I will not somehow give in. I want to be rescued properly. And this is also some standing up. I mean, imagine being kidnapped and there is someone coming and you say, no, I want to have it right. Yeah, she's a princess. Yeah, I think that has something to do with it too. And also the question is, why haven't she told anybody, and why she went through all this, and why didn't she stand up and was so faithful and devoted to her husband without regards to her own happiness. And yes, the next question was, can you relate to the character of Sita? Then when do you think, when you think about your life, do you find similar challenges? So have you the same challenges as Sita has in a way? Do you find resemblance with the story of Sita and your own? And then, of course, did you like the movie of Nina Paley and how she wove the stories together? I will now tell you the answers. So most of the women knew about the Ramayana, but as I told before, not so much. You know the plot, like there is Rama, there is Sita, there is Hanuman, she's rescued, and then they live happily ever after. So it's quite popular to not know about the 7 books, and that there is a last book where all these things happen and how Sita is going back to Mother Earth. So it's like a happy story when you got told in the yoga culture, and it's also like being the perfect couple, then he being the perfect king, and Rama is said to be the perfect husband and father and king, and nobody really thinks about what challenges he has, and to have all these roles and to fulfill them properly, and also that there must be a range, like what is the most important, which way do I follow? And Sita, with Sita, it's the same. Then most of the people know about Hanuman. Lots of the people know that there is a Hanuman mantra, and there is a Rama mantra, and so this is taught, but you don't know much more about it. And Hanuman, as I said before, he is a big monkey, and he did great things, and he jumped to Lanka, and he brought back a mountain, actually, where the herbs are growing to be a medicine for, I think it was the brother of Rama, Lakshmana, who was very sick. And then I was asking about Sita, and what the women think about Sita. And only watching the movie, you could have told that Sita is quite passive. And only in the end, she stood up for herself. And I think it's a bit more difficult than this, but from the viewpoint of the woman, it was different. But what I found interesting is that the only woman who is a mother, she differentiated her being with and without children. So before she got pregnant with her first child, so it shifts something for women also when becoming a mother. And I think this was also happening to Sita. And then I was asking about if you can relate to Sita, and if you can find similarities to your own stories, and if there are challenges like Sita went through nowadays in modern Western world. And the one thing I found also very interesting, that within the responses, and also mine in the beginning of working with the story, was that almost every woman, including myself, could relate to Sita, but being in a younger age and a younger version of themselves. So going through relationships which were not good for them, like being badly treated, and themselves not understand that they could stand up for themselves, because they were not thinking that this could be also a reality and done differently. So all the women answering this question had similar challenges, and they were quitting relationships because of seeing that they were not treated in a good way. And so this was one of the things all of the women reflected. So they found Sita to be in a passive role, and to be not being treated properly, and that she maybe should have left Rama. That was one or two women wrote it like this. And I thought of, they were telling me the stories of their evolution in a way. So getting into a relationship the first time, and then understanding their own worth, and then standing up for themselves, and taking up also their power, and going into another life, and growing personally and taking the lessons learned helped them also to see their own value. So this is one of the things they reflected a lot when watching the movie. There were no more resemblances with the story of Sita. I think it's also quite hard because Nina is describing the breakup and her new life and how she coped with the breakup. And this was also something in the past for the women I asked. And so at the moment, they didn't see any other resemblances. For me, it made very clear that we know how devastating it can be to be hurt by someone we love and trust, but there is also something in us that knows that we deserve to be treated in a good and respectful way. And having translated the story into the now in Vienna, Austria, I can also see how much culture plays a role in the reflection of the story. Thinking about how long ago the core story has been made up or been told in a very different cultural setting, not resembling a bit with our actual state of being, how can we relate at all? So how is putting into relation works, but only on an emotional or personal level? This was a question I asked myself. For me, watching the movie was kind of healing. Because it's never easy to be in a situation like Sita was, but she got married to the man she fell in love ultimately, and then she got kidnapped and she was tossed away, and she was being faithful but mistrusted. She was proving and then again put out on the opinions of people. So how many of us would judge her today in a way? And if a similar story would have happened in the media, how would we react? On whose side would we stand? I think it's not so easy question to answer. Because also some days ago, I heard an interview of the singer Miley Cyrus, and she was sharing that she was a bit also, I don't know if she was confused, but she told that it was crazy because people thought of knowing her relationship and her husband. And she said there is so much happening in between which you can't see, and this was also hitting me in a way when thinking about the story of Sita. So how would we answer now if we would have seen this story in the media at the moment? Would it be so easy for us to decide which is good and which is bad, and what dharma what law of righteousness would we take on? So can we relate to Sita at all? She was a princess. She was being put out to so many opinions, and even till today there is this discussion. So what I'm asking myself is, can we learn something about being truthful to ourselves through the story of Sita or our own challenges? Can we take something with us so we can be stronger in the world? How can we handle mistrust or handle being treated badly by someone who we love? And will this inquiry ever bring the right answer, or will the answer change? isn't every story and every woman special and has to find her own path, which is the core of my podcast. This was something that occurred to me while reading through the answers given to me. Then the last question I asked the women was, did you enjoy the movie? And it was a yes from all of it, because it's very nicely done. It's you learn so much about, sorry, you learn so much about the culture of India, and the reflection of Nina's story and synchronizing it with the one of Sita was taken up very kindly. Nina Pele achieved something great, I believe. Not only did she cope with her own loss, but she found a way to give a reflected summary of the Ramayana while upholding the question about Sita and touching lots and lots of difficult subjects in Indian culture, like gods, demons, ethics, and also the question of purity. So Nina also gives a lot of explanation and information through the 3 silhouettes, which are traditional shadow puppets. And when you have the movie, you see Sita dancing, and you see the story of Nina, and there is always cut, and then in between you see these shadow puppets explaining and asking and being in dialogue, which I found very helpful. Also, if you don't know anything about Ramayana or the Indian culture, you could still watch the movie, learn something, and enjoy yourself while watching it. I'm coming to the end, so my personal reflection I want to share with you also, like I did with through the podcast, but now in I say, oh my God, conclusion, to conclude. Doing this assignment was harder than I thought, and I learned a lot of about the Ramayana and about Sita and about Nina Pele and about how I will pose questions in the future, and also how hard it can be to find participants for an inquiry, even though I thought it would be even rewarding for the woman watching and reflecting on the movie and on the questions. And normally I also interview women in my podcast, or I'm telling just my own thoughts on subjects. And this was also quite a challenge to really put lots of efforts in it and to put together something which is hopefully educational and fun to listen, and also interesting to listen to. What I learned through my own path is that there is not just one truth. Everything we live through has something to learn, to grow, and to understand. And I somehow I went into peace with the story of Sita, where first I was like, oh my God, how badly was she treated? And now I made my peace with it, because I learned so much also about how you could see it from a different angle, and to learn that Sita was a very strong woman who stood through a lot of things and never lost her faith. For me, some significant thing within the story of Nina is, but also her cat. If you watch the movie, you see the first cat she had with her husband jumping on her face, jumping on her to be fed, to wake her to be fed. And at the end, you see herself having a new cat, and you can see much of love and devotion from the cat to Nina and vice versa. So the cat shown in the end is completely different, and it seems that the cat loves Nina and is happy to be with her. And I read into this that she found peace with everything, like Nina found peace with everything. And my understanding is also that there is something inside of us which is changing our behavior, thoughts and stories we're telling ourselves about the things happening and the people and the men in our lives. And sometimes it helps to just change the story about what you think about yourself and your life. And one thing is also shown so perfectly for me through these two stories being interwoven is you have to choose to love yourself, and you have to choose whom you love, and then you have to choose how you want to love. In the show notes, you find all the links I used to find information to prepare this podcast. And there are also some books which I will add too. So I hope you liked the podcast. I hope you could follow my English, and I would love to have your comments underneath, and maybe you watch the movie and tell me how you liked it, and if you find resemblances between you and Sita. Thanks for listening. You find the podcast on www.rani-yoga.at, and I wish you a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you for listening. Namaste.